Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Live. It's not 6:05, it's actually 3:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, Con Kazantzidis, and I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to let it all hang out. We have just been told, well, earlier today, that this state will be in another further 4 weeks of lockdown. So I decided, why not just let it all grow and try and look respectable. One of my little mottos was, shave it off or keep it nice. I don't know whether I have kept it nice enough, but I certainly won't be shaving it off. It's just the state of play. If you're new here, as always, type in new down below. Join the conversation if you like, whether you've got a beard or not. There's this whole debate about whether people, it's the blade, it's death before the blade and all this kind of stuff. Let us know. Have you agonized over whether you should grow a beard, regardless of whether you're going through a COVID-style lockdown or not, whether it's self-imposed or not? Let us know. What I've decided to do, of course, is to become a walking, talking, living experiment. I want to just see where this will go and just test it. I mean, I normally have a little goatee, which I test beard oils and things with, but now I'm going to give it the full enchilada. You could be watching us through Facebook Live, but also through YouTube. That's right, we're streaming live through our YouTube channel, Stray Whisker TV. If you're on there, put in new. This is, the state of play these days. It's all streaming and nothing much else. Streaming and screaming for some people. A big cheerio to those who have tuned in. We've got some people here live from the altar, the Chapel of St. Stray Whisker. Yes, I think I'll probably have to grow it on, Stuthy. I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's starting to look serious. I don't know. Let us know if you think I should get rid of it or not. Look, no, don't do that. That's a silly poll. Why would you do that? I'm just going to, when I'm out and about, I have to put on a mask, so you don't really see it, but I feel it, and sometimes it gets quite itchy. And we'll be talking about whether, I should persevere with it for some time. I can't be called Shave the Man anymore. I'm going to be called Not Shaving This Man. I do shave under here, and I've yet to sort of start on the cheeks there, but I'm sure that will happen in due course. In fact, every week there is noticeable change. Hello, Peter. Thanks for joining the live. Looks good. Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you to say that. Yeah, it kind of ages me. I know I'm probably looking, 15, 20 years older than what I actually am. Sometimes I feel it too, I have to say, Peter. So I'll see how we go. Anyway, it's one of those things. But what I will do is keep this bit. I don't like the neck beards. Please, gentlemen, if you're going to grow a beard, or ladies, if you're going to grow a beard, this bit is just deal with it, please. And I'll discuss very briefly how I deal with it. Look, up until recently, I was just doing this all the time, scratching because it's very itchy. The whiskers, as they grow, start to curl in on themselves and they start to irritate. Neck beards aren't a good thing. Adam, neck beard equals dirty neck. Yeah, look, I don't know. It's not my thing. I don't like it at all. And it looks really untidy and unkempt. And plus, I don't want to completely remove myself from the joys of shaving. I still love using a brush and a razor, and I will continue to do so. So, is it really the Clipocalypse? Now, depending on where you are in the world, some places have opened up and, have re-entered civilization as we once knew it. Others are now being plunged further and further into the abyss called lockdown. It doesn't have to be that way, of course, but it is a good time to experiment with things and do things that you ordinarily wouldn't do if you were out and about and keeping company with other human beings. Anyway, so I'm going to share some of the strategies that I use and what I think are important things. I had a call earlier today from a friend of mine asking some advice on clippers and what he should look for. Can I just say that clippers these days, there seems to be a convergence. There used to be marked difference between clippers, Val and Anderson, all these reputable brands that have been around for years and years. It now seems that there is less difference amongst them, which either means that the reputable brands have lowered the bar somewhat, or brands that were entry level have sort of, they've met somewhere in the middle, and they're all pretty good. To be perfectly honest with you, they're all pretty good, but there are things that you need to look out for, and they're the things that we're going to be discussing today. I have customers asking all the time, do you have a good pair of clippers or trimmers? They're usually, when they say clippers, they're really referring to trimmers because they just want to keep all this sort of stuff neat and tidy. But be that as it may, we'll discuss that. I mean, it's no surprise, of course, that the key to good clippers or trimmers is the blade. It's the steel. Motor is a motor. Yes, there are cheaper ones. There are less expensive ones that perhaps may suffer in quality. But if you've got good steel, it will hold an edge longer. You'll have to send them away and get them sharpened less often and all the rest of it. So it does make a difference. There is a difference. But as I said, by and large, the mass market clipper trimmer space, there is absolute rubbish out there. I'm not going to say that there isn't, but they've all kind of, in the same area. So you've got to be looking out for certain things, and we'll talk about that today. Whether you're in the market for one or not, every household should have a trimmer or a clipper. You might have pets. Don't use the same one that you use on the pets. But anyway, the principles are basically the same. Let us know in the comments if you use clippers or trimmers and how you use them. I've always had them, and I've always kind of do my mustache because that's the other thing. I'm letting the mustache grow now because I just want it to go. I'm going to go into full dirty Sanchez mode. I just want it to just go as much as it will, and I'll see what this experiment looks like in the end. Speaking of looking like, it looks like I'm going to have some caffeine. I'm just having a nice long black, or an Americano, as you would call it. Right, folks, let's talk about this. Quite often, we'll have people, yes, Peter, we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm glad you asked. Quite often when people come in, they say, look, I need a new pair of trimmers or clippers. The first thing I put in their hand is not another pair of clippers or trimmers. It's this stuff here. It's clipper oil, if you can see that. There it is. Any sewing machine oil will do as well, but just clipper oil. So I would say don't buy any clip. If you have some at home, go for oil first. You should have oil lying around the place anyway, but this is your first port of call. Now, it sounds a bit strange. Why wouldn't I be flogging and selling clippers and trimmers when I had an opportunity to do so? No, because I don't believe that quite often when someone wants new clippers or new trimmers, their old ones are tugging or they're not cutting. Lubrication is your friend, and not only does it lubricate, but it prevents pitting, rusting, oxidation of the blades. Very, very important. So it's not just to keep the parts lubricated, but it actually preserves and gives the blade a lot of longevity. So I would start with the oil. Having said that, I oil my clippers and trimmers before and after use. Yep. So what I do is I run them quick. This is sound a bit weird, but here we go. You can hear that. So I run it a little bit, stop it, take some oil and just run it across the blade there, and then let it run for a bit. Take some tissue and just wipe off the excess oil. You don't want oil, dripping all over the place. And then I use it as required. Generally, this side when I'm doing a bit of sculpting, and this side when I'm trying to reduce the length of the beard. Once I'm done, I give it a good wipe, clean it, oil it again, and then put it away. And in this case, you'll note that there's no cords. I put it on the charger. Corded versus lithium batteries is a question that I get asked all the time. That was a lithium battery one you saw there. There are all sorts of fancy ones like this one here called the Apollo, and it has all sorts of things. There's all this information on it. I don't know if you can see that. Shows you, where are we? You can see that. It tells you the revs per minute and all this sort of stuff. And, it has a charging base. But what it does have, to Peter's question, is a ceramic blade there. I don't know if you can see it. This is quite, yeah. And that will stay sharp for a long, 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 long time. Obviously, the bottom, the base plate may need to get sent away, but if you're using it at home and you're not a barber, then you're not likely to go through these blades. It's, unless you're using it hundreds of times a week, then you should be okay for daily or every other day use in a non-commercial environment. Okay, so battery versus corded. I prefer something that has a cord, simply because I know I'm going to get the same amount of power consistently. I can understand the appeal of going for a lithium battery one, but we've had some problems. People have, said that they're not necessarily from products that we sell, but people have had problems with lithium batteries. They don't hold charge. They get quite hot. This whole argument of, do you let it run down to zero and then charge it up? What do you do? I mean, straight out of the box, there's always some residual charge on there. What do you really do? My rule of thumb is, if something's got a lithium battery, I even do this with camera batteries, I let them go to zero completely. If it's on a camera, I'll let it just film, videotape the street or a wall or something, right? Let it run down and then give it a full charge. With these clippers, I would let, so usually there's about anywhere from, and it tells you because some of them have a visual display, anywhere from about 60 to 80% residual charge. I like to just run it down, okay? So I'll take the blade, oil it, just on, off. I mean, obviously, if I'm desperate and I need it, and this is why I've purchased the clippers, then I'm going to go for it straight away. But my recommendation is to charge it for a minimum of anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, and that should do the trick. So my preference, corded. Why? Consistency. The lithium can be hit and miss. They're very good. They're good quality. They're great if you're traveling and all the rest of it. And they're also great if you're going to do some landscaping in the shower. Okay, you take the thing in the shower. You don't have to have it, plugged in. Obviously the shower's not running, right? You just take it in the shower, do what you've got to do, and then you can discard all the whiskers that are there. And I can see that there is a practical side of that. I just like mine on full power. Have used the lithium battery ones, but I prefer ones that are plugged in and corded, and Val and Andis and even these silver bullets that we carry are very, very good. In fact, if you buy a silver bullet from us and there's anything wrong with it, no questions, replace them. If there's anything wrong with it, bring it back and I'll give you a new one. There's no need to fiddle around with repairs and sending them back and, all this sort of warranty. We just take it back to the distributor. What they do is they take the cord, cut it, and throw it in the bin. They say, right, that's a write-off, replacement, full replacement for customers. So that is it. Keep your blades well oiled. Ceramic blades are very, very good, but you'll find normally that both blades aren't ceramic because they're quite brittle. So that's why you'll only have either the top. It's usually the top blade. The base plate is still metal, but I have used them and I find them very, very capable. I quite like them, and they're particularly good when you're growing a beard, because you can just go and you're done. Right. Speaking of growing a beard, it gets itchy. What do you do with an itchy beard apart from scratch? Well, it's a simple one. It's really quite simple. Keep your face moisturised. If I'm still using a moisturizer with this length. It still hasn't reached the beard oil strength, but where I need a beard oil, in about 2 or 3 weeks, I probably will be going to a beard oil. A couple of, pumps in the hand, just work it through and then leave it. You don't need too much. Please don't put, I've seen people put, a ton of oil like they're going to fry potatoes or something in it. Please don't do that. You don't need to do that. You need a small amount and you're good to go. I like the hideously expensive Truefit and Hill one. Why? Because it is very light. You don't feel like you got to, the Exxon Valdez has had an oil slick on your face. It's quite, it's quite workable. It smells very nice. They all do. But I think that particular formulation is great. But again, as I say, it's on the more expensive side of things. Beard balms. I mentioned this last time. You could use a beard balm that looks something like that at room temperature, which is like a sort of a butter, usually contains shea butter and jojoba oil and all the rest of it. Rub it in, and that will just prevent the itching and the scratching, because what happens is the skin starts to dry, it starts to flake, the hairs are growing, they start to turn in on themselves. Next thing you know, you're scratching. And that is it, really. I mean, that's basically it. If you've got any things you want to share with us, let us know. You can put a comment below. This is it's not your typical sort of live. It's something that I figured, look, we're in lockdown now. We're not usually on at 6:05. Some people are still at work, those of you that can go to work or are permitted to go to work. So I figured we would do something a little bit different. Now, I think we had a comment there. Yes, Peter, there are different opinions on how to place the rake on your skin. Can you get skin irritation if you orientate the blade regularly? Yes. I have found, I guess it's like shaving. Angle is very important. I've seen people try and, do this sort of business, and you can end up, because you're going up and down and you're trying to find it. Well, firstly, you're not going to get any shape out of that. This is just wholesale trimming. All of the aesthetic, the design, the precision cutting occurs when the rake is facing this way to your skin. So you could work it. I don't know if you can see that. Make sure that is the direction. I mean, the way that you would use it to reduce any sort of wholesale mistakes. But also, I have been guilty myself of going a little bit too hard and creating some irritation because of the positioning of the rake. It's one of those things. Practice makes perfect, and I will be practicing, quite a bit over the next 4 weeks or so. If you orientate the blade incorrectly, yes. Well, there's a technique with everything, really. Any other questions? Who we got here? We've got Stathiacon. What do you recommend for keeping the moustache goatee styled once it gets well past the stubble length? Right. Firstly, I would recommend that you don't trim it at all, and it will start to irritate you. It'll get long and it'll start to curl in over your lip. You won't be able to eat without getting the odd whisker in your mouth. You won't be able to have a cup of tea or have some soup without it getting into you. Persevere with it. Once it gets to the stage where it's quite long, the best way to style it, I think, is with a moustache wax. But don't go for these extra hold ones until you've got some experience using the product, because what they tend to do is they solidify at room temperature rather quickly. The ones that are a regular hold tend to be softer and they're more malleable. Once they're more malleable, you can work it into your fingers and just work it into your moustache, and you'll find that they will then solidify over a slightly longer period than those extra hold ones. I've had people purchase extra hold moustache wax and have a horrible experience with them because they start to they're starting to lose whiskers and all the rest of it. So interestingly, there has to be a period where you look quite scruffy before you get to the stage where you can start styling things. It's about having a bit of length. So it'll be a little bit wild to begin with. You'll have a lot of fly outs and things like that, but you've got to let it grow. And that's the part that's difficult. if you're still dealing with the general public, or you still got to go out, or in a professional capacity or whatever, then that could be the problem. But I think within 6 to 8 weeks, you'll find that the sheer length and the weight of the whisker will allow it to be styled and moved about the place. Beard balms are very good if you've got something, if you're going for a bit more substantial hair around the face. So trimming and using a beard balm will help. But I would say, look, it just has to be a moustache wax more than anything else. So beyond a stubble. Now, I've had people say, do I need a beard oil if I've got stubble? No, you don't need it. Some people use it. I personally don't. As I say, this to me is I still consider this stubble. I know it's a beard, but it's not quite the length that you can, that you can start to do interesting things with it. So I think I'm probably about maybe 4 or 5 weeks away from that. And I'm going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go and see how it goes. As I say, under here, make sure you shave. The other thing is it gives you shape. There's nothing worse, as we said, than this beard, this sort of neck beard, because what it does is it creates this amorphous mess, hair everywhere and all the rest of it. It just doesn't look good at all. But this reintroduces shape into the face. The other thing is when I'm shaving, if I had a razor here, I'd show you, but basically what I do is I don't shave straight across. I go in a V to the Adam's apple, which creates the illusion that I've done, that it's gone straight across. If you go straight across, it's going to look really quite silly. And the same for these bits here. Once they start to grow out, what you do is you stretch it and you just go straight across. And then when you let it go, it will create a natural curve. I'm going to say it. Those silly looking right-angled combs that you can buy to style your beard are a complete and utter waste of time and money, in my opinion. If they work for you, fantastic. But I just wouldn't touch them. I just lift the skin and just go straight across and then let it go, and then it'll create a natural curve. That's as simple as that. I mean, I might even have to do a demonstration, put up a video of it. I'm not going to do a live demonstration because it could become a massacre. It could become the Chainsaw Massacre if I do it. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There you go. So the other thing I do, apart from have coffee, is advise people on these 3-in-1 products, where you can, if you can see that, shaver cleaner. So what it does, it lubricates the metal. It's good for scissors and straight razors, and also these shavers. All you do is, I'm not going to do it, of course, just spray it at some distance, and that'll keep that well lubricated. Again, start it up. But these are very good for sanitary purposes as well. Barbers love them, and we've got a couple of offerings there. They're sort of anywhere between $15 to $20. They're very inexpensive, but they work. They're a good thing. So that's it. Keep your blades well oiled. It preserves them. It keeps the trimming and clipping exercise a lot smoother. Why? Because you've got you remove any form of inertia or friction, and that will keep the blades working at the optimal level. As I said, this is me personally. I like to oil them before and after. It just makes sure that it's and you'll have them for years. There's no, and obviously when you do that, you're going to need to get them sharpened professionally, send them away and get them sharpened professionally less often. Now, if you are a barber, of course, then you know what that deal's about. You have to go through that fairly frequently, especially when you're using, if you're cutting hair all day and using the clippers, they will get rather blunt and dull a lot quicker than someone that's using it at home. Essentially, that's it. So let it go. If now would be a good time for those that are living in my home state, and if you're all in lockdown, let it go. Resist the temptation to sort of trim and cut and do anything. Just let it go, and see how it all works. But remember, keep this if you can. get rid of the neck beard because it really is quite ugly. Yeah. And another reason for me, I've said this story before, it ruins your shirts. Right? Keep this clean and then you'll have a much nicer and more shapely face. I think that's it. It's time to go. It was only a short one today. I thank those of you that joined the live. If you're watching this on replay, why? If you're not, well, you should be. That's it from me. Okay, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.